This is a Wilson Blade V8 16x19. Let's take this to the outdoor tennis courts, actually one of my favorite outdoor tennis court facilities, and see how this racket plays. This will be a very detailed analysis on the Wilson Blade V8 16x19. So if there's a particular section you want to go to, I will leave timestamps down in the section below for you guys to browse. Also, at the end section of this video, I will be going over how to make the Wilson Blade V8 16x19 a better tennis racket overall by giving you string recommendations and weighting suggestions. Because here's a little spoiler. It's not a perfect racket. Wilson didn't always have an open string pattern for the Blade lineup. I believe it was only the fourth version of the Blade, the second wave of the BLX releases, did Wilson finally open up the string pattern for this racket. Truth be told, this is my first time ever hitting with the Wilson Blade with a 16x19 pattern, and for a detailed analysis of the closed string pattern version of this same racket, I will leave a link to that video review in this corner if you guys want to check it out. Also, if you guys want me to do a direct comparison side by side between these two brother-sister rackets, please leave a comment down in the section below. I would be more than happy to do that as well if there's enough interest. And just like the closed string pattern, I love the simplicity of this beam. The box rounded beam is consistent from the shaft all the way through the head. Head. Nice. This has become more and more uncommon throughout the modern player rackets because of very much different structured rackets like the Babolat Pure Aero and the Babolat Pure Drive. This racket felt extremely fast and user-friendly from the baseline. Even though the blades don't have the most headlight balance in the world, this is probably one of the quickest performance rackets I've ever play tested from the baseline. Even if the opponent hit the ball with a bit more spin and pace than I expected, I felt like I could whip the stick through the air to have a decent contact point out in front of my body. The top spin for this racket was also pretty good. Not really known to be a spin monster, this racket still had some instances where my ground strokes were going to sail a little bit long, but it ended up dipping a few inches inside of the baseline just because of that extra bite. Also, this racket was comfortable. During my playtest, I had absolutely zero concern for this racket giving me any type of arm, wrist, hand, or shoulder problems. This 61 stiffness rating is apparent here, and because I did find just a little more stiffness on this racket, a little bit more pop than its closed string pattern brother. And for an open string pattern racket, flattening out shots was relatively well controlled. The change of direction, pace, and the amount of pop when flattening out a shot like this from the baseline, kind of like an approach shot, was pretty damn good for an open string pattern racket anyway. Now, this is the part of the baseline where I will start to criticize this blade. This is one of the worst rackets I have ever play tested in recent memory for slices. Even if I set my feet, the slices of this racket not only tended to sail just a little bit long, but it went way too high over the net. And that's not a good thing for slices. Also, there were some massive change of direction issues with this racket when attempting slices from the back of the court. The stability of this racket wasn't the best either. However, you definitely felt the instability of this lighter player frame when hitting towards the hoop of this racket, towards the tip. I noticed that for a lot of my forehand squash shots on the run, the ball couldn't even be close to be making it over the net because of the severe lack of power and instability towards the head of this racket on contact point. If you are a defensive-oriented player, I would highly suggest you try other rackets out before spending $229 on this offering from Wilson. I have no idea what Wilson has done with this racket to make it stand out so much. But at the net, this is an absolute gem. Without too much hyperbole, this is the greatest midweight racket for volleys I have ever play tested with. Every ball dwelled on the string bed slightly longer than expected, and that's a good thing. It was plush, even though there were slight mishits and awkward shots. Even the heaters screaming towards me nearing 85 miles an hour were easily deflected deep back into the opponent's court with ease. Even the drop volleys were made to be quick winners at a flick of a wrist, a stop of an eye. This was absolutely unexpected because with midweight tennis rackets with an open string pattern, I was expecting some instability. But I'm glad that there's none to report. The only better rackets for volleys would be in 11.7 ounce or above range. Think of the Wilson 97 RF Pro Staff, the Babolat Pure Aero Tour, or even the Head Prestige Pro. Also, did I mention how quick and maneuverable this racket was? Surprisingly, this tennis racket was awesome for flat serves. Contrary to the characteristics of an open string pattern racket, redlining the racket speed with this blade did not result in any type of loss of control. Every flat serve I hit with this racket was comfortable, plush, and expected. Along the same vein, the spin serves were fantastic. It obviously had a lot more bite than the closed string pattern of the racket, but without any type of the instability issues that were plaguing it from the baseline. Just like the Groundstrokes, the maneuverability for this racket was top-notch. Even when reading the toss or the placement of the opposing person on the other side of the net, even when reading that slightly late, I felt like I was able to get this racket and my body into position to get the point started, even if it wasn't as aggressive of a cut as I'd like it to be. And thankfully, unlike its closed string pattern counterpart, this racket did not have any glaring issues with the return of serves. However, it was still far from perfect. Against bigger serves, I did feel a little bit of instability in this racket, but it was a different flex feeling compared to the Yonex V-Core 95. I will leave a link to that review in this corner if you guys haven't checked it out already. I personally believe that this lack of instability is due to the low weight and possibly balance of this Wilson blade. Thankfully, the instability was not felt against spin serves or flat serves around the 110 mile per hour or less speed mark. Also, for the aggressive cuts on returns, I never felt like the ball actually dipped into the court last second. Yes, the trajectory was good on these returns, unlike the 18 by 20 counterpart, but the ball didn't have nearly as much spin potential on the serve returns as it did on the Groundstrokes.
Sorry. YouTube famous. Sorry.
This is a pretty good offering for a modern racket from Wilson. An open string pattern, a performance and control-oriented frame like this is welcome in the tennis market. However, here are some suggestions I will make for users out there thinking about demoing or even buying this racket. Add weight towards the edge of the racket. I would recommend putting weight on 10, 12, and 2 o'clock positions of this racket to counter the instability you're going to feel. However, be greatly warned that you are going to have less maneuverability if you do that. Also, you want to add some weight around 9 and 3 o'clock to make this racket slightly better for slices for stability for slices at the baseline. Also, start off with a 16 gauge stiff poly. I believe a thinner gauge like 17 or even thinner will make the trajectory of this ball way too uncontrollable right off the string bed. I would also recommend a stiff poly instead of a soft one because the racket is soft for a modern player's racket to begin with. And now I want to turn the conversation to you guys. Have you tried this Wilson blade yet? What are your thoughts? I want to know if there's anything I missed or if there's anything you disagree with me on. Leave a comment down in the section below, or better yet, join my Discord where almost 1,000 tennis players, stringers, and tennis enthusiasts banter and trade ideas on tennis strings and tennis equipment. This playtest was with the Slinko Hyper G16 gauge strung at the lower recommended tension of 52 pounds, and this racket was a 4 3/8 grip size. And as always, happy hitting.